In our last episode, we looked at the 5 albums that Bruce Springsteen put out in the 1970s. Now we're going to look at the 1980s, and Bruce has become a superstar. And he's about to go on an epic road trip past the Cadillac Ranch, through Nebraska, and into the heartland of the USA. Let's see what Bruce is doing in the decade starting in the 1980s. Let's drop the needle. Bruce and his band, the E Street Band, had done extensive touring, and Bruce knew that their best sound was when they were touring, when they were playing live. So for his next album, he decides he wants to capture that energy on the record. But because Bruce is a perfectionist, the album takes 18 months to make, and when it is finally released, it's a double album, and it's called The River. The album was released in 1980. There are 20 tracks on the album. Some of my favorites are The Ties That Bind, Two Hearts, Independence Day, the hit Hungry Heart, which has a single reach number 5, You Can Look, But You Better Not Touch, The River, and Cadillac Ranch. The album was a huge success. It reached number 1 in the US and number 2 in the UK. And so naturally, Bruce takes the band out on the road to support The River. And the tour results in 140 shows, and the concerts are now lasting longer than 3 hours. It takes Bruce 2 years to release his next album, and it's quite unlike anything he's done before. The album started out with Bruce recording demos of the songs that then he wanted the E Street Band to work on, and they did for a while, but Bruce decided that he liked the demos better. So he scuttled the E Street Band recordings, went with the demos, and came out with an album that's very stark called Nebraska. The songs deal with criminals, gang wars, and the hard life of blue-collar workers. I'll admit this is not one of my favorite Springsteen albums, but standout songs are Nebraska, Atlantic City, Johnny 99, Open All Night, and My Father's House. The album sold pretty well, reaching number 3 in both the US and the UK. And in a break from his normal way of doing things, Bruce decides not to tour to support this album. But Bruce takes the time off the road to work hard on his next album, to craft the songs that will stand the test of time. And he does it. The album is one of the best-selling albums of all time, and it's called Born in the USA. And there were 7 singles that were released from this album, and they all hit the top 10. The singles were Dancing in the Dark, Cover Me, Born in the USA, I'm on Fire, Glory Days, I'm Going Down, and My Hometown. Unrecognized by modern politicians, Born in the USA is not a patriotic, jingoistic song. Rather, it actually details how hard life is for a Vietnam veteran coming back after fighting the war and coming back trying to claim his rightful place in the USA. With a massive promotion behind this album and all the great songs that are on this album, it easily reaches number 1 in both the US and the UK, and as I said, becomes one of the best-selling albums of all times. Incidentally, this album was the first album to be released on a compact disc that was manufactured in the US. Prior to that, all compact discs had been manufactured exclusively in Japan. Based on the success of the album, Bruce Springsteen decides to go out on tour. But at this point, Steve Van Zandt decides to leave the band, and he's replaced by Nils Lofgren. And then Bruce hires Patti Scialfa as a background singer. And he and Patti really hit it off. And I thought there was going to be romance sparking between them on the tour. But not long after, Bruce meets a young Hollywood actress, Julianne Phillips, and marries her. After the wedding, Bruce went back on tour. He ended the tour playing a massive show at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, the LA Coliseum. And when we heard about it, as I mentioned in the last episode, my good friend Jim Stadell and I both knew we had to go to that concert. And so we did. We bought tickets. Now, you got to know that the Coliseum seats about 100,000 people. And when we arrived pretty early, our tickets were, of course, up in the nosebleed section. But hey, We were going to get to see Bruce play in front of all these people. It was going to be fun. So we sat down in our seats. And a little while later, up comes what I'm just going to call an obnoxious guy with his obnoxious girlfriend. And they come up to us and say, "Hey, you're in our seats. Get out." And both Jim and I pulled out our tickets and we said, "No, these are our seats." And the obnoxious guy gets right in our face and he goes, "No, they are our seats. Get out of them." And I said, "Well, show me your tickets." And he pulled out the tickets, and sure enough, he had the same seats that we did. But we were sitting down in them, so we were not going to leave. Well, things are just about to get out of hand when an usher comes up and says, "What's going on?" And the obnoxious guy turns to him and yells, "They're sitting in our seats." Well, the usher takes a look at both of the tickets and realizes they're both the same. So now he's got a dilemma. But the obnoxious guy will not shut up and keeps yelling at the usher, saying, "You got to fix this, and you got to fix it right now." And so the usher goes, "All right, I will." And he leans down to Jim and I and said, "Come follow me." And we both kind of looked at him and said, we don't want to give up our seats. And he goes, "No, come follow me. I think you're going to like this." So we get up out of the seats, and the obnoxious guy laughs at us and sits back down. And the usher goes, "All right, let's go. Just follow me." And he starts walking, and we go down out of the nosebleed seats, out of the back of the auditorium, the Coliseum Stadium, and then we keep walking towards the front. And we keep walking, and we keep walking. And it's a massive place. And we get up to the third row. I mean, the stage is so close, you could almost touch it. And he takes us over and hands us the tickets to 2 seats in the center of the third row. So that's where we got to watch Bruce Springsteen. And it was a really amazing concert because you almost get the feeling like the artists do when you're that close to them, that you can kind of forget that there's 100,000 people behind you. And when a song finishes, there's just this roar of noise like a jet airplane that comes over your head and goes to the stage. Bruce put on an amazing show, of course. In case you're interested, here is the set list from September 27th, 1985 at the LA Coliseum. 27 songs in all. And when the show was over and we were standing up to leave, I said, "Well, I wonder how Mr. Obnoxious liked his seats up there in the nosebleed." And Jim kind of looks and goes at me and goes, "You know, I couldn't care less." That tour was a huge success. And Bruce finally gets around to releasing a live album. And what a collection this is. It's live 1975 to 1985, and it contains over 40 songs. The songs are recorded at various venues throughout the U.S., including the LA concert that I just told you about. Live 1975 to 85 became the second best-selling live album in U.S. history, only topped by Garth Brooks's Double Live. Bruce takes 2 years to record his next album. It's called Tunnel of Love, released in 1987. And he uses the E Street Band very little on this record. Mainly it's Bruce playing all the instruments himself. And the songs are very introspective and very reflective because they basically mirror the turmoil that Bruce is going through in his personal life as his marriage to Julianne Phillips is falling apart. Tracks I like are Tougher Than the Rest, Spare Parts, Tunnel of Love, The Brilliant, Brilliant Disguise, One Step Up, and Valentine's Day. The album reaches #1 in the UK and the US. Then, to close out the decade, in October of 1989, Bruce disbands the E Street Band. So in the 1980s, Bruce releases another 5 albums, showcasing his writing skills and his incredible live performances with the E Street Band. Now, as usual, I've created a Spotify playlist where you can listen to some of the songs that I've talked about in this episode. And here's the link, and I'll also put it in the comments below. So quite a decade for Bruce. And of course, you know, he's not done, because in the next episode, we're going to look at what he does in the 1990s. Thanks, Bruce, for all the great music. And thank you for watching. And until next time, keep it rockin'. If you liked this episode, hit the like button And you can also leave me a comment down below, and I'll respond to you. If you subscribe, we'll let you know when future episodes come out.